The unnerving world of crime and horror can sometimes blur the lines between fiction and reality. With our natural human curiosity, we are often drawn to macabre tales that test our boundaries of fear and sanity. Today, we will be sharing with you 5 chilling horror stories inspired by real-life serial killers. Prepare yourself for a chilling journey into the dark corners of human nature in this video. Number 1. The Butcher's Path. Deep in the dark heart of London's East End, there lies a nefarious network of winding alleys, each more secretive and sinister than the last. This urban labyrinth is well known among the city's hardened denizens, its reputation both cautionary and macabre, thanks to the murderous legacy that stains its cobblestones. They call it the Butcher's Path, a devilishly fitting name for a way that spilled the lifeblood of countless unfortunate souls. It all began in the cold, hushed winter nights when whispers among the lantern-lit streets birthed ominous rumors of random disappearances. People started vanishing without a trace, evaporating into the foggy chill of the night as if ripped from existence. It wasn't long before the gnawing dread gave birth to the gruesome discovery that brutally juxtaposed the serenity of winter. Puddles of frozen blood, strategically pooled at the entrance of various alleyways. Police investigations proved futile, drowned in the perplexing enigma of these atrocities. However, the pattern was unmistakable. Each blood-stained echo of violence lay carefully positioned at the foot of an alleyway, forming a morbid constellation that traced the same chilling path each time, the Butcher's Path. The unknown perpetrator seemed to revel in his bloody artwork, leaving a crimson trail that seemed to silently beckon the brave or the foolhardy to follow. And some did. Drawn by morbid curiosity or the need to bring justice, brave souls dared to trod the bloodied path, ill-prepared for the hellish vignettes they would encounter. Torturous cries echoed through the alleyways, seeming to originate from thin air. Shadows shifted in elusive games of hide-and-seek, leaving the hunters feeling ominously hunted. Every corner turned presented a specter of unseen dread, every cobblestone a tangible echo of past barbarities. Those who managed to traverse the length of the path and share their experiences spoke of a distinct sensation, a numbing cold that would creep under their skin and navigate their veins, paralyzing them with terror. But what was even more chilling was the blood-curdling realization that the path, in its gloomy solitude, hid an even darker reality, captivity. By the time they reached the path's infamous climax, the frosty cellar, the realization was inescapable. People had not merely disappeared, they were taken. There, in that icy dungeon, blood-stained hooks hung from the ceiling, a chilling testimony of the butcher's monstrous tableaus of brutality. The screams seemed to grow louder and more agonizing, and the invisible cold became a frigid embrace of despair. So ended the bone-chilling journey down the Butcher's Path, a journey that changed its participants forever. Even today, the path remains, an open wound in the city that refuses to heal. The chilling tales of savagery and ghosts of those fallen linger fresh in the memory of those who dare to tread, a terrifying reminder of the blood-soaked history etched into the city's dark underbelly. The Butcher's Path indeed lives on, a chilling path to cross for anyone who dares. Number 2. Cellar's Crimson Stains. The sound of dripping water reverberated throughout the damp stone cellar as Detective Rodney Jackson carefully navigated past rotting wine barrels, the rancid stench of fermentation wafting in the stale, putrid air. He tightened his grip on the flickering flashlight, the sole source of illumination in the otherwise pitch-black abyss. He was there to investigate the disappearance of 3 missing persons in the small, otherwise idyllic town of Crestwood. The victims, all patrons of Bertie O'Leary's pub, were last seen heading towards the cellar for some rare whiskey, the kind you won't find on regular store shelves. It was clear that each of Bertie's cellar visits ended in crimson stains mysteriously appearing on the rough cellar floor. Horrifically enough, the stains were located by a volunteer's dog during a town search for the missing men. The slightest touch of the abrasive stone floor sent shivers up Jackson's spine. As he traced the outline of the sinister stains, he noted the increasingly prevalent coppery odor of stale blood. What he found disturbing, even more so than the stain itself, was the alarming amount of blood indicate a brutal, merciless death. Suddenly, Jackson caught the glimmer of something metallic amongst the discarded wine corks and broken glass littering the floor. Stooping down, he held the object to the light, a bloody butcher's hook, cruelly sharp and grotesquely gleaming with a most insidious intent. He heard a faint, spine-chilling whimper in the cellar's far corner. Armed with a lone butcher's hook as a defensive weapon, he warily advanced, flashlight bouncing wildly off the ancient stone walls. There, collapsed on the cellar floor, was the crumpled figure of the very man he'd come to question, Bertie O'Leary himself. Bertie's face was a mask of sheer terror. The sight of the once jovial tavern owner twisted with such dread was more chilling than the cold, dank cellar. But who would want to harm Bertie? And what had he seen? As Jackson was about to reach out to the old man, a deafening crash echoed in the darkness. Turning sharply, he barely had time to register the sight of an approaching figure before feeling an intense, searing pain in his arm. Dropping the hook and flashlight, he stumbled backward, landing hard against the cellar wall. As his vision faded, the last thing he remembered was a pair of wild, gleaming eyes and the scarlet stain rapidly spreading across his own shirt. The tale of the cellar's crimson stains took a horrifying new turn. It wasn't Bertie who was taking visitors for a last drink in the cellar after all. It was some unknown, bloodthirsty butcher lurking in the shadows of the wine-soaked, deadly space beneath the tavern. Number 3, Frozen Scream in Darkest Alley. If there was one thing Detective Barnes had learned over the years, it was that sounds were often circumstantial, at best. Even the most chilling scream could be a stray cat, the wind howling through an open window, or a rambunctious neighborhood kid playing a prank. But this was different. This wasn't the wail of a feline or the shriek of a boy. It was an echo of fear, a crystallized essence of a soul's terrifying journey into the unknown. Detective Barnes had been patrolling the labyrinthine, shadowy alleys of the city for decades. He had seen his fair share of grim crime scenes and grisly discoveries. But the bestial scream he heard that night, echoing down the dank cobblestone pathways, was something out of a nightmare. Pushing through the icy fear that gnawed at his resolve, Barnes ventured toward the harrowing sound. As he walked, the frosty winter night seemed to grow colder, as though the moon above were sapping the warmth from both the city and his spirit. It was an invasive cold, the sort that seeped into the marrow of bones and gnawed at the corners of the mind. The further he went into the serpentine maze of the alley, the more the silent buildings clustered around him seemed to mutter dark secrets into his ears. Shadows danced and flickered across every weathered brick and rotting dumpster, whispering tales of ferocious violence and frenzied terror, ever reminding him of the city's monstrous heart that beat underneath his very feet. The source of the ghostly scream was revealed in a dim corner, under the weak fluorescence of an aged street lamp. Propped against a grimy wall was a body, a lifeless form that could barely be recognized as human. Death had arrived early for this unfortunate soul, pools of frozen blood painting a grotesque portrait on the frost-hardened cobblestones. Time seemed to distort as Barnes crouched beside the lifeless form. The world fell away, swallowed by the opaque fog that gorged itself on the gruesome spectacle. A chilling realization clawed at Barnes. The alley was a dead end, a path that led to oblivion, yet the scream, so defined by fear and pain, it hadn't reverberated off the bricks. It had come from deeper within. Somehow the body belonged to a victim who seemed to have screamed after death. With a sickening sense of dread, he suddenly understood the truth. The fetid stench of fear in the alleyway was not from numerous crimes committed within its snaking confines, but rather the ghostly echoes of their terrified, departing spirits. The city was not haunted by the killers. It was haunted by the killed. The chilling scream in darkest alley. It was not a call for help, but a warning leaving Barnes with a spine-chilling notion. Could the city itself be the serial killer he was looking for? Number 4. The Graveyard Whispers. Under the hushed silence of nightfall, the Graveyard Whispers came to life. Located far on the outskirts of town, the desolate cemetery was largely neglected, only visited by mourners bearing loss and occasional thrill-seekers curious about the rumors surrounding its haunting nature. Every night, according to local lore, an eerie sound, like a distant whisper, could be heard echoing throughout the crumbling gravestones. The unnerving noise became a constant, an invisible specter that ruled over the moonlit graveyard. No living soul could decipher these whispers, their enigmatic ingredients blending together to create a chilling concoction of dread that permeated the town's surrounding land. The story that circulated told of an infamous serial killer who once roamed their humble town. Known only as the Whisperer, he had a perverse, cruel tendency to whisper sweet nothings to his victims before abruptly ending their lives, abruptly shoving them into the darkness of eternal sleep. After his reign of terror ended with his demise on the gallows, his resounding whispers were said to persist in the town graveyard, a grim reminder of his chilling deeds. There was a group of teenagers, aficionados of horror stories and urban legends, dared themselves into the graveyard one gloomy night. They ventured into the whispering graveyard equipped with nothing but a torchlight and a hefty dose of bravado. They intended to debunk the local myths once and for all, ironically unaware of the terrifying spectacle that awaited them in the breath of the cold night air. Despite their bravado, the daunting whispers intensified as they journeyed deeper into the cemetery. They shifted from being an indistinct murmur to a more clear, human-like utterance. It got so chillingly clear to a point they could distinguish the distinct hushed threat. "You're next, my child." Staring into the impenetrable darkness that surrounded them, they froze. A chilling wind whistled through the barren trees as the whisper morphed into a drawn-out laugh, a sickening delight. A blood-curdling scream pierced the silent night, culminating in a ghastly silence that enveloped the graveyard and its visitors. When they finally snapped out of their trance and create a hasty run for civilization, one of them was missing. Next morning, a body was discovered in the graveyard, in the exact position as a funerary statue close by. His lips were pale, eyes wide open in terror, frozen forever in a whisper. The insidious whisper's grim prophecy had been fulfilled. The graveyard whispers had claimed another victim, one who dared tread on cursed grounds. The chilling legend continued to grow stronger, linking each victim to an innocent curiosity that brings them face to face with the murderous ghost, existing not just in whispers but in a cold-blooded reality too ghastly to comprehend. Number 5. Nocturnal Claw's Vicious Hunting. In the heart of the sleepy town, as the church bell rang midnight, a disaster of unfortunate fate was about to occur. It was amidst this still serenity that the Nocturnal Claw, as he was now known, came out on his vicious hunt. The streets were silent. The pale moonlight cast chillingly eerie shadows all around. From the corners, only the distant hooting of an owl echoed. The night was in its darkest hour, a perfect setting for the Nocturnal Claw to continue his monstrous spree. The moment for his prey was ordained. A lone woman, Mary, returning after her late-night shift at the factory, unaware of the lurking shadow following behind. The predator quietly stalking as in a desolate alley, tension filled the frigid air. Suddenly, a rapid gust of wind blew, leaves rustled, and unseen critters scurried across the path. A fleeting glimpse of movement in the corner of her eye, and Mary turned around. Her heart pounded heavily against her chest. The street, however, appeared vacant, still, and silent again. She shivered, pulling her jacket closer, quickening her steps towards the safety of her home. She was barely a few steps away when she felt an ice-cold hand clamp over her mouth, her screams stifled instantly. The faceless horror of the nocturnal claw had her within his deadly grip. Panic and terror surged through Mary. The moment was fleeting, yet felt like a stretched torment. The alley started to blur as her consciousness began to fade. Her body slumped. Morning unveiled a gruesome sight that sent icy chills down the neighborhood's spine. Mary, lifeless in a pool of her own blood, claw marks visible on her ashen face and body. Her gruesome end was no mystery to the residents. They knew the nocturnal claw had claimed his latest victim in his blood-curdling spree. Despite the feeling of dread gripping the town, life had to go on, as did the nocturnal predator. As each sunset, the town's silent prayers echoed in the wind, wishing to not be the next prey to the vicious nocturnal claw on his chilling hunting spree. None of them knew who would be next, or when the terror would end, and that was the most horrifying element of it all. Today, many years later, the spine-chilling story of the nocturnal claw's reign of terror still haunts the residents, serving as a bone-curdling reminder of the ominous nights when the predator stalked the lonely streets, leaving a bloody trail of unspeakable horror. No trace of the killer was ever found, making it an eternal mystery, a macabre legend whispered in hushed tones, buried deep within the town's shadowed history. The harrowing tales of these bone-chilling serial killers have left an eerie silence echoing through the night. If the dark appeal of these stories left you wanting more, don't forget to hit subscribe and like this video. It's been a chilling journey, and we hope to meet you again in the gloomy folds of our next terrifying tale. Until then, thank you for joining us, and remember, keep your eyes open in the dark. Darkness never sleeps.